Hey guys, this is Ben, the creator with Monumental Heart Media, and today I'm here with a good friend of mine. His name is Stephen Hilgart. He is an amazing business coach, life coach, and he has an amazing history with his career. He actually worked with Tony Robbins, and today's show I'm going to ask him some questions. This is kind of a brand new concept. We don't even know where this is going to head. But I'm going to ask him some questions about business, mindset, and that's pretty much it. Stephen, if you want to tell the people your credentials or what you've done in the past.
I have zero credentials. There's no reason you should be listening to me whatsoever. I didn't go to school. I didn't graduate. I didn't do anything.
He's humble, guys.
I'm semi joking, but really, I'm a serial entrepreneur. I'm a writer. I like doing podcasts, I'm probably most known for the last 8 years. I was the right hand guy for Tony Robbins. So I ran around and spoke got 5,000 different businesses somewhere around there. Ran around the world, ran around the country. I've owned 3 businesses of my own. They were all in the 7-figure range. So I did fairly well as an entrepreneur. I'm working on building business number 4 and 5 right now. So things are going pretty well for me, but I've recently left Tony to go off on my own to be my own life and business strategist.
Yeah,
if you will.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm excited that we connected. I've known you for a couple years. The first time we met was at the Tony Robbins event, the Unleash the Power Within in California, and I walked on hot coals and whatnot. And when I did that, I remember I burned one of my toes. That was it. But overall, it was a great experience. I felt super empowered, and it's just been an amazing mental ride, I guess I could say. So, all right. So let's get started. The first question I have down is, how can I develop a more positive and productive mindset when it comes to running my business?
That's an interesting question, because I think entrepreneurship is always a roller coaster, right? It's like some days you're on top of the world, and then 5 minutes later something goes wrong and you're like, oh my God, what did I do? Like, how do I turn this around? And that feeling never goes away, right? So the biggest thing that you got to make sure is not stay there, because those are going to happen. You can stop yourself from feeling positive feelings, but you can't stop yourself from feeling negative ones.
Yeah.
So there's so many people who are like, I'm in control of my emotions. That just means that they're like making sure they don't feel too good.
Yeah.
Right. And the negative side, it's going to happen. The biggest thing that you got to do is, I used to have bad months where, like, for the whole month, I'm depressed, I'm down, I'm frustrated, I'm pissed off, I'm angry. And then I got to the point where I started to get better, where it's like, okay, now I got down to bad weeks, and then bad days, and then bad hours. And then now it's like 90 seconds. Like, let me just let it out. Let me bitch and complain and just be angry for 90 seconds. And then after that, it's, okay, now what do I need to do? Yeah. So having the positive mindset, I think, is so important, but realizing it's only half of that coin, right? You can't have positive without negative. You can't have up without down, black without white. Like, there's always that. It's always going to be there. So to have a more positive mindset, I would just argue, let's go on the negative side and make sure that you don't stay negative. Like, experience it, feel it, and then move on.
Yeah, one of the things that I recently, because we are, I don't know, I guess we're considered a startup. We've been active for about 60 days, and I'm learning to be okay with people saying no to me. And at first, when I first started, I was like, okay, I'm counting on it. I think I'm like $20,000 in, and this is I got credit cards. I had to get resourceful, but I believe in this, and I created some great opportunities. And that's one of the things that it's okay. Like how I see it, it's like I see abundance. So someone might say no to me, but the next 10 people that I sit down and potentially work with them, or collaborate with them, you're gonna say yes to me. And I've been getting more yes, or maybe I'm asking so many people that it just seems like I get more yeses than no.
Well, you get what you focus on, right? Because it's like so many people think, like, what can go wrong here? What's going to go bad about this? Oh God, they're going to say no. I know they're going to say no. I know it. What if you just stop thinking about what can go wrong and you start thinking about what can go right? What if they say yes? Oh my God, this is going to be exciting. Imagine what we could do together. Imagine what we could build. Yeah. Oh my God, this is really cool and exciting. So when you talk about that positivity mindset, it's really a habit. It's a way of thinking. where it's just like, you can always focus on the problem or the solution, focus on the opportunity or the crisis. You can focus on everything that's going wrong or everything that's going right. And right now you're focused on all the yeses.
Yeah.
And it may not be more than the no's, but you're just focused on them.
Actually, you're right.
Yeah.
No, I really appreciate that. And I have a different perspective on that. Like, I love it. So the next question I have for you is, what are some of the common mindset blocks that entrepreneurs face and how can I overcome them? So I guess when I wrote this down, I pretty much I recently went through a situation with the client, and they made a little comment, and it really, like, I felt like they saw like if I wasn't doing enough for them, and they made me feel really insecure, and I couldn't shake it off.
Right.
And it was like, literally, it happened the night before, and this was like weeks ago. So, but then it bothered me all the way till like the next day, and I couldn't get out of that, like, at the time. But obviously I called you and you're like, stop being a bitch.
Well, there's a couple old sayings that are just, I think people forget about these things, but the old saying, nobody can hurt you without your permission. Like, there was no reason for someone, even if they said something, you got hurt because of what the meaning you created in your head. Oh, this means I'm not good enough. This means they're better than me. This means something along those lines, because that meaning creates the emotion.
Yeah.
And you get sad or frustrated, upset, whatever it is, because you're thinking that this means something. Nothing has any meaning except for the meaning that we give it. So here's this client comes by and says, whatever, yada, yada, you're not good enough. You're not smart enough. You're not this or that. Well, all communication is either a loving response or a cry for help.
Yeah.
And the only reason anybody would tear anybody else down is because they're not feeling secure themselves. And so what if the meaning wasn't, oh my God, I'm horrible? What if the meaning is, wow, they must be having a really rough time? Because why would you say that? Like, it's so weird. Like, God, that's interesting. Why? Oh man, I wonder what's going on. I wonder if they're really hurting inside. I wonder if they're, having a bad day. I wonder if their business isn't going so well. I wonder if, they think they're on top of the world and now they've got to lash back because they were beaten up by somebody else earlier. There's 1,000 meanings that you could come up with.
Huh.
But if you make it about you, it's always going to be upsetting.
Yeah. No, actually, yeah, you're right. Kind of reminds me of this. I remember, I don't know if it was like an interview. Yeah, I think it was an interview, and they talked about the hero syndrome and the villain syndrome. And the villain syndrome is, it's like somebody got hurt by the world or somebody, and when the way they took it, when they grew up, they're like, they took that pain and they wanted the whole world to feel that pain.
Right.
And with the hero syndrome, they went through some pain and they did everything in their power to make sure that nobody's gonna feel that pain.
Right.
And actually, that kind of makes sense. I mean, not kind of, but it does make sense.
Yeah.
That's exactly it.
If you really think about like your family, when your family gets upset at you or says something stupid or whatever, does it bother you for so long, or you're just like, oh, that's my brother, oh, that's my sister, like, oh, what a jerk, like, typical.
Yeah, actually, yeah.
And then you just move on.
Yeah, I get over it.
Yeah.
Quick.
And imagine if the world is family. Imagine if the world is that way, and you might not like everybody in the world, you might not like your family even, but you don't let it bother you the same way because it means something different to you.
Yeah,
it's like, oh, it's just my brother, he's an asshole. Like, but that's
I love that. I love that. So the next question I have here for you is, let's see. Okay. How can I stay motivated and maintain a positive attitude when facing challenges in my business?
The biggest thing that I've noticed about motivation and drive and hunger is that when you can see the promise, you'll pay the price. And what I mean by that is, if you can see the vision, if it's making sense to you, if it's clear, you'll pay whatever price. You'll knock on the doors, you'll make the phone calls, you'll do whatever it is. But I think so many people set these major goals and they're like, I'm going to be a millionaire next year. I'm going to be a millionaire tomorrow. I'm going to be a millionaire. And then it becomes this black and white thing where it's like 1 or 0. It's like, I'm either a millionaire or I'm not. So it's pass or fail. I made it or I failed. And if I failed, I'm a failure. And they go down this rabbit hole of bad meanings. So the motivation comes from seeing progress. And Tony taught me this years ago. He said, listen, happiness is not about getting the thing. Happiness is about progress. And if you think about anyone you know that's like sad or depressed or they're really upset, anybody who's ever been suicidal or depressed, I can't tell you every reason, but I can tell you one reason that they all share in common, myself included. They didn't feel like they were growing. They didn't feel like they were moving anywhere. So when I talk to somebody about their goals these days, you're like, okay, maybe $1 million is their big goal. But okay, that's 1 to 10, level 1, level 10. Here's where I am now today. Here's what level 10 is, right? So if my goal is $1 million a year and I'm making $200,000 a year, like that's level 2. But now I can see that I'm moving up the bar.
Yeah.
It's not about going from level 2 to level 10 tomorrow because that's pass or fail, but it's like, what can I do today to get to level 3? What can I do to get to level 4? And if you feel that progress, that's when you'll always be motivated because it's like, I'm growing every single day. Even if it's not crazy, even if there's challenges, even if people tell you no, even if they slam the door in your face, tell you to go to hell, whatever it is, you feel like you're growing. And that's where the excitement comes from.
No, yeah. So for me, being on this subject, like how I could relate it to something recent for me, obviously, like I started the media company, but the biggest change I had recently in my life was I lost about 45 pounds in the last 6 months. And it started by doing the 75 hard challenge.
Yeah.
And at first it was tough because I had the whole challenge is you have to work out twice a day and get on a diet pretty much, but I'm calling it nutritional lifestyle. So I was consistent, and at first I saw little changes, and then gradually like day 40, 50, I started seeing big changes. And then once I hit 75, which I ended up rounding it off to 90 days, I went for 90 days. I saw a big difference. I think I lost like 35 pounds, but out of nowhere, once I hit the 35 mark, things slowed down. And that's where one of the biggest things that I learned from that challenge, it wasn't so much like when I first heard about it, I thought it was like, okay, it's about weight loss and being fit, but they also encourage you to read, which I don't read. I modified it and I listened to a lot of audiobooks.
Sure, yep.
Yeah, so you start you start educating yourself, you start coaching yourself, your mindset. And one of the biggest things that I learned was about being consistent and discipline. And I feel like for me personally, I was able to grow and get these results because even the days that I didn't feel like working out or saying no to, I don't know, the cupcakes or cheesecake or whatever, the discipline kicked in and I just stayed on track. And like now, how even with this, like with the media company, like I think I invest like over 20-something thousand in it, and there's a lot of money in there. But how I see it is it's just like fitness. Like I know if I do these little things that I do, that the networking places like that I go visit, the connections, the interviews that I do, I know I'm gonna be okay. So
yeah, 100%. And it's interesting in the fitness world. My lady, she's a bikini competitor, so she's constant every day. She weighs every calorie that goes into her body. Yeah. I mean, there's a scale in the kitchen. Yeah. Every day, every single thing gets weighed, measured, tracked, whatever. And it's fascinating to see her. She's got a professional goal, like she wants to become a real competitor and be professional in that world. But I think it's interesting for like people like you and I. I used to be a professional athlete. I'm just not anymore. It's not my main focus. I worked out 8 hours a day, because it was crazy. But for me, it became that same thing where I'm not seeing progress anymore because I wasn't tracking the right things. And so when you're doing 75 hard, like you can't just track weight because at some point you're going to gain weight because you're more muscular and you're putting on muscle. Like you need to eat more because you're doing this and you're realizing like, no, I need to eat less. No, actually for you to keep going, now you need to change it up. You need to eat more. Yeah. And you need to eat more stuff. So tracking not just weight, but inches in, different muscle groups and tracking how you feel and how you all of those things so that you see the progress. Because if you don't see the progress, that's when people get so upset. Like, what am I'm in the gym for the 800th time. What the hell am I doing here? Yeah. Like, this is stupid. I need some tacos.
Yeah, right. No, and I know I totally agree with that because I recently, posted a picture on a thirst trap picture. Just kidding.
God.
No, on Instagram, or actually on Facebook. And for the last month and a half, I almost like borderline developed like I don't know what it's called, like body dysmorphia, because like I look at myself and I'm getting ready. I'm like, dang, I still have a gut, and I'm looking at myself in the mirror. But then I posted that Instagram post, and I'm looking at my physique when I'm doing the exercise. I'm like, wow, like not only is it like, do I look like more muscular, and it's just, you know when you work out really aggressively and you have this pump, and then out of nowhere, like 3 hours later, just you don't look muscular.
Yeah.
Well, I can see my muscle tissue. It's there. Like even right now, like I wear medium shirts now, no big deal. But you can see the physique, and people that haven't seen me like in 3-4 months, they're like, whoa, who are you? Like,
Right.
like I see my old pictures, but I think sometimes like I feel like we are our own worst enemy sometimes. Like I feel like it. So now I'm changing. Even when I do see myself in the mirror and I feel like, okay, I'm not seeing changes, I go back to that mentality. It's like, you know what? If I do this, keep on doing this, like in 3 years from now, even if I'm making these little, I'm not on an extreme diet. I'm just self-aware about my being on a calorie deficit. I work out every single day, every Monday through Friday, I work out for at least an hour. And so there's a guy that I'm training where we did the math, and what is that, like about 220 days or so out of the year. If I do this for 10 years, like, man, I'm gonna look good.
Yeah.
So
100%.
yeah. So yeah, man, I love the conversation we're having. So the next question I have for you is, how can I use visualization and positive affirmations to improve my mindset and business success?
You know, it's funny that you bring up this question, because of course, internet arguments, they're always grand, aren't they? Where someone just said, you can't just tell yourself, you're just lying to yourself. If that's all you're going to do is lie to yourself. Again, hurt people,
yeah.
right? That's always the case. But, visualization was so important for me getting into my business, and it was very difficult when everyone says, okay, you got to write out your goals and you got to write out the exact plan, and it has to be very specific and measurable and actionable and reachable. You need to do these SMART goals, and you have to write your goal specifically that says, by December 25th of 2023, I will have this by this time, this moment. Like, I've never found that to be really valuable, because again, it becomes a pass or fail.
Yeah.
And then if you don't hit it at that exact mark, you become a failure. One of my big goals was to open my karate school while I was 21.
Yeah.
That's 21 years old. I want to have a business. I want to be a businessman. Well, it was like my birthday's in March. I think we opened in May. So it was like 2 months after my 22nd birthday. What a loser, right? But that's how I felt, because I was sitting there, I was thinking, oh God, I'm failed. And then like, here I've got this great business and everything's really cool. But, I felt like a failure because I had to write it down. It had to be this way. So for me, and I don't know if this is valuable for everyone, but for me, one of the big things is the visualization was, I could visualize it perfectly inside of my head. I couldn't always communicate it to you. Yeah. But I want the biggest, baddest martial arts school in the world. And for me, that really meant something. And they're like, well, no, it needs to be specific. No, stop. I know what I want. Yeah. And it was a feeling. So when it came to visualization, I mean, every single day I spent time daydreaming about these visions, daydreaming about this stuff. There was an exercise I did many years ago. And it's where you write out your perfect day. So you take out your journal and you write down literally every detail of your day. Where at the beginning, you're like, okay, where do you wake up? What time do you wake up? What's the first thought you have in your mind? Who are you waking up next to? Are you waking up alone? What do you see? Like all of these things, you go into just super, super detail. And I had all these little things visually inside of my head. I wrote about that. I want to wake up to floor to ceiling windows, and I want to wake up in a new city every day. And I want to do, I want to walk in glass shower, and I want like all of these things that I visualized. And a few years later, I found myself in Panama City, Panama, and I'm in the Hard Rock Hotel, and I wake up and I just realized that literally I was living out that visualization, what I wrote in my journal so many years before. And I'm like, this is the view. This is a crazy new city. look at this shower, look at this place. It's, it's just a Hard Rock hotel. It wasn't anything special, but for me, like, I had realized that I had visualized that and it became true.
Yeah.
And so I think for everybody, having that vision is so, so important, even if you can't always articulate it, right? It's just like, I know what I want.
Yeah. You got me thinking. I was just reflecting, like, actually all this, like, literally about a month and a half ago or something like that. I had a client of mine that was looking into filming podcasts, and he showed me a picture of like this super cool looking podcast studio. He was like, "Hey, look, I found this online. Like, I'm trying to." They were gonna build one out, and then eventually someone was like, "Hey, let's do a pilot. Let's find a place." And so my mission was to try to find a spot, and it didn't exist. And I felt like, you know what, like Arizona needs that, and Monumental Heart Media is gonna be the one to bring the heat, right, guys?
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah. So it came like, this is exactly where everything that's in this room. Oh, I don't want to get emotional, but it's exactly how I envisioned.
Yeah.
Originally, like the other media podcast studios out there in the Valley, they usually have like either a TV and or their company logo.
Sure.
And I chose to not use my company logo because like I felt that it takes away from the people that are going to rent out the room. It takes away from them.
Yeah.
So I chose this for a reason, and it was dream bigger. So anytime any entrepreneur, any business person, or anybody in life that, that wants something more than that they have in front of them, they have to dream big. So this is where
we're relate.
So one thing that maybe you could give me, I guess, some advice right now, and I'm kind of learning. I keep on putting timelines on myself. So for example, like this whole goal, talking about goals and putting timelines. Like for me, I said, and then we had this conversation, in about 9 to 12 months from now, I want to get to the point where I rarely edit a video or touch a camera, and I want to be more of a director. But I put myself a timeline, and I can't remember if you gave me some advice or either it just came to me, and I stopped putting timelines. Literally after I let go of that, and I just took action. A couple weeks later, now I have my amazing manager, and she's an editor, and then I have an amazing lead editor here and videographer, and I did it. Like, I didn't have to wait 9 months, 12 months, and also too, I'm actively catching myself saying that regarding sales goals and business, and I'm like, all right, in a year from now, even we have some stuff planned, you and I, that I keep on saying 12, 14 months. And
no, it's like tomorrow.
Exactly.
Like, let's go. A couple just random thoughts on this. Number one is some of these businesses over the years, they have 10-year plans and 5-year plans. And you look at some of the Japanese businesses, their mentality is, what's our 100-year plan? Well, but here's the problem with that. Look how far technology has changed this year alone. Like, look how much the world has changed since COVID. Look at how much everything has changed. There is no more 5-year plan. Mike Tyson always said, like, everyone's got a plan until you get punched in the face. And we all got punched in the face collectively. Yeah. I truly believe that there's like 90 days and then there's today. Yeah. Like, what are you going to do today? And what are you going to do in the next 90 days? Like, I can't get my head around a year or 2 year or 5-year goal anymore, just because it's, it's going to change so much. And yeah, you should always have goals. You should always have a vision, an idea of where you're going. But Tim Ferriss, author of the 4-Hour Work Week, 4-Hour Body, he did a bunch of books, Tools of Titans. He had a really big, profound impact on me, because there was one time when he said, how do I accomplish my 10-year goals in 6 months? And just by asking a new question, you start getting new answers. Now, when I asked that question publicly, oh my God, did I get so much like lashback. You can't do that. You shouldn't do that. You should. And everyone's belief systems start to pop up. But why? Why not just do your 10-year goals in 6 months? What would that look like? How would you do that? If you had to do it, like, what would you do? And so many people, I think they forget that life happens where it's like, okay, somebody's got a heart attack. No, you can't work 14 hours a day. Yeah. So how do you run your business now? Do you just give up? Do you quit? Or do you find a way around it? Do you figure it out? And I think most people just aren't figuring out, like, that's such a scary question for most people. And I don't know why. I don't get it, but I'm like, that excites me.
Yeah.
10-year goals in 6 months? Could I do that? How would I do that?
Well, well, I mean, now that we're like on the subject, we're talking about this. My 9 to 12 month goal, I did it in a couple of weeks.
Yeah,
literally.
That's the truth.
And I mean, it is exciting, and it just gives you more. You feel more empowered, and you're like, you know what, dude, I could do it. Like, you know, and even it just goes back to the whole conversation we were having earlier about just being disciplined. It's like little actions every single day. And like, I know eventually you're going to be able to either, might be fast, it might be not, but we're on this ride. Like, I can't fail. So this is, if you guys are, if this is like your first time meeting me, like this is my second time. And then and we talked about this, and this is my second time owning a media company. And the first time that I started the media company, just I don't want to bring too much of the past, but some shit happened. I went through depression. I was suicidal, and for 4 years I let my dream die. And I created the opportunity to start a podcast with a friend. It was more of a passion project, and my buddy was telling me like, hey, imagine if you had all this knowledge, all these things back then, like what would have happened? And I said, and technically I still had all, you know, $12,000-$15,000 worth of camera equipment, had everything I needed to start a business. And I said, oh yeah, 9-12 months. Again, I don't know why I'm obsessed with that timeline.
Yeah.
9 to 12 months. I even told you about that when we did our first podcast, and it's so crazy how we started at my friend's office, and look at this.
Yeah. Here you
Wow.
are.
Fuck yeah. Dude, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
You were one of my first A+ guests, like,
And that was just a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, like, yeah, and it was insane how everything happened. So, wow, that's crazy.
I'll give you this one of my things. My dad told me this years and years ago. He's an interesting character because he worked for a company for 20 years, and they promised him equity. You're gonna move up in the ladder. You're gonna move up. You're gonna move up. You're gonna move up. And then the day came where it's like, here I am. Where's my percentage? I'm supposed to be owner now. I said, no, we're not going to give that to you. He quit on the spot, wouldn't start his business, and ended up taking a large chunk of that company's business with him. And he did really well. But, you know, the conversation always comes up like, what are your regrets? And he said, you know, I should have started my business 20 years earlier.
Yeah.
But one thing that he always said was interesting. He said, would I have been successful the first time? Probably not.
Yeah.
But over 15 years, 20 years, would I have figured it out? Hell yeah, absolutely. And I would have figured it out a lot faster than I did here.
Yeah.
And he said, the only regret that I have is not doing this 20 years earlier when I should have. And, you know, like,
I'm getting emotional because I just thought about that. Like, you know, I was just having this conversation with Deshelle, my manager of the company, and we were talking about how 4 years that I don't know, I built the courage to do this again, and
right.
and I was thinking like, all right, what if I just, you know, like you said earlier, like took a 90-second or week or whatever, you know, like for me to get over it, but I was in that hole for a year and a half, dude.
Oh yeah.
And it was a horrible, but I feel like everything in life, I don't know where I heard it from, maybe from you, where like sometimes things happen to you, not to you, they happen for you. And I feel like personally, because of like battling depression, anxiety, I was already a loving, empathetic person, and I feel like I'm more of an extreme version of that.
Sure.
And for years when I was a little kid, especially because I grew up in Maryville, like, you know, I was in hood, but like I was in the hood. There's this movie from 50 Cent. He's like, you show no love in the hood, or love will get you killed, and it wasn't that bad of the area where I lived, but yeah, like if you were a nice guy, like, you know, people try to tend to pick on you. You know, for many years when I was a little kid, I used to get picked on a lot. And when I hit 12, 13, I started lifting weights all the way to like, you know, till now. Like I've been a muscular person. I did MMA and I had to fight a lot. Like now in my early to mid 20s, like I'm not fighting physically, but I'm like consistently, people are always trying to test me or like they they feel because I'm such a nice guy. But now, being in my early 30s, wait, how old am I? 34. 34. I don't know why I looked at the show like she knew my age. But I
Can you check his ID, please?
I know, please, for reals. No, one of the battles that I have now, like, I mean, now, no, not even. I don't even have battles. In my early mid-20s, when I used to work at the bank and even dating, like, I noticed the douchebags, like, would get the girls. But now in my early 30s, like, man, the nice guys win, dude. Like,
100%.
Like, yeah, like, we win, like, for reals, dude. So if you're out there, you're the nice guy, you feel like nice guys finish last. No, you're gonna win. Like, not even in, like, in the sense of, like, you're gonna make money, dude. You're gonna win in life, I feel like. Because like, I have so many opportunities. Like, I'm so blessed to have you as a friend, as a mentor, and I feel like if I was a douchebag kind of guy, I don't think you'll be like, hey,
oh no,
you're a cool guy, Ben. But
later, dude.
Exactly. So
I can't tell you the amount of people who have asked me for coaching or wanted to be a part of some business deal or something with me, and I've turned down so many people because I'm like, this person is not a good person.
Yeah. And I feel, I know where you stand morally in your, like, your core values. Even if they're millionaires, I'm pretty sure, I know we haven't had this conversation, just make an assumption that even if a millionaire say, hey, let's do this business, and they're tool bags, you'll probably say no to them. I'm assuming, right?
Oh, 100%. But I mean, I'm at the point now, $1 million is not a lot of money.
Yeah.
And when you start to realize that most companies, we've had this conversation in the past where there's people who don't have money, there's people who think they have money, and then there's people who really have money. And those are very different classes of people, not only personality, characteristics, morality, like how they treat people, how they talk to people. And I've never met a really rude person who has real money. They've never been rude. Now, they may be direct, they may be challenging, they may not, accept your limiting beliefs, like Tony Robbins is a perfect example. Guy does $8 billion a year, and at this point, I mean, no big deal.
Yeah.
And he's the nicest, most kind person, but he will challenge you. When it comes to like a limiting belief or something, he's not being a dick. He cares so much that he'll tell you something.
Yeah.
And he'll get in your face and say, no, this is unacceptable. You're worth more than this. You can do better than this. But then the people who think they have money, I mean, most businesses, you don't realize this until you get to about $1 million in revenue for the year. Like, you're just getting started. Like, you can barely afford to pay for the lighting bill and everything until you get to $1 million.
Yeah.
You can't hire anybody really. I mean, maybe you get a small crew or something like that. I know some businesses are, one client in particular, I think of, they're about $2 million a year. They have 20 employees. They can't afford them. So they're losing money every single year because $2 million is not that much money. I mean, think about how much money you have to pay 20 people, full-time salaries, pay for rent, pay for overhead, pay for, taxes, everything else. So people who are doing a few $1 million, like, they aren't taking home a few $1 million.
Yeah.
They're maybe maxing themselves out. All three of my businesses, they're around $2-3 million mark. I was paying myself 80 to 100 grand a year. So I wasn't like a millionaire. Of course not. And anybody who's doing that, unless they're doing, 10, 20 million. Now, there are some exceptions. One-man shops, two-man shops that are just like really profitable, that they make more money than they know what to do with.
Yeah.
But even those people, they're just like, they don't care. They just want to go and travel and do exciting things. Yeah.
All right. So the last question I was going to ask you is, how can I balance the need for focus, discipline with the need for flexibility and adaptability in my business?
I think that one's easy. You don't take your eye off the goal of what you want, but you do need to become flexible in your approach. Because I think a lot of people, when they hit that first wall, that obstacle, because it's like, okay, let me go. I'm going for this treasure. I'm going for this goal. I'm going to achieve this thing. And they hit the first wall. And instead of walking around the wall, they change the goal. And that's one of the biggest mistakes. So many people, I'm sure you've heard this from friends. I want to make $10,000 a month. No, I want to make $120,000 a year. No, I want to make $200,000 a year. No, I want to make $7,500 a month. No, if I could just make $1,000 a week. Like, their goal changes constantly because they run into the wall, and then they run into another wall, and then they run into another wall. And instead of being flexible in the approach, you don't change the goal.
Yeah.
You change how you get the goal. So the goal has to be, or the visualization, or however you want to say it, that has to be rock solid. But there's going to be so many challenges along the way. It's like, okay, that didn't work. How do I still get around this, over this, under this? How do I go through it? What do I need to do? So I think you're asking the right question, but it's in two different versions.
Yeah.
Don't be flexible in the goal, but always be flexible in your approach.
Okay, that makes sense because like I ever since I started the company, I was like, okay, I have these big visions. Like I want to make 6 figures, 100,000 a year or whatever, and then double it. And then now I'm planting my seeds and I'm building the accounts, but it's not moving as fast as I would want to. And now it's like, now
6 weeks is way too slow, dude.
I know, right? And so I'm thinking like, okay, now, for the first 30 days, like I need to make like, 15, two grand a month, like, a week, just so I could pay my people and, cover everything.
Right.
And yeah, like I'm really hard on myself. Like I'm like so hard on myself and like I beat myself up but I'm learning to, I'm not saying like, I'm not excusing myself, but I'm learning to be like patient, trust the process, and stick to what we've been talking about earlier, which is
right,
being consistent. Like,
yeah,
this is going to pay off. Everything that we're doing, not just in the sense of where I took this, where the media company is going, where the way we're approaching business is way different. Our mission goal is to be of value and of service of others. And that's ultimately what it goes down. Like literally everything that we do is based on customer service, taking the, care of the clients. And this is the reason why we upgraded on all the camera equipment, the audio, like everything. Just because if we are going to be, our specialty is reels and podcasts. Like that's going to be our main bread and butter, I guess, for the company. And we want to be able to deliver that. So, but I am hard on myself sometimes.
Remember to be hard on the problem, not the person.
Okay.
Because when you're talking to like staff members, team members, friends, family, anybody along this line, so many people are hard on the person and not the problem. And even in relationships, like intimate relationships are always a challenge for everybody. Yeah. It's like the greatest source of joy and the greatest source of pain, right? For anybody in their life, like their intimate relationship. But a lot of times it's like me versus you.
Yeah.
When it needs to be both of you versus the problem.
Wow.
Same thing in business. Same thing on yourself. Like, a lot of entrepreneurs, they are really hard on themselves, but they don't realize that it's not them that's the problem. There's a problem. Like, okay, be really hard on that problem.
Yeah.
Here's 10 different ways we're going to fix this problem. We're going to go at it.
Yeah.
And it has nothing to do with me. When when I coach bigger businesses that have hundreds of employees, one of the biggest things that the mistake that a lot of management leadership makes is they blame the person first instead of the process.
That makes sense.
And it's almost always a process problem, not a person problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, if the person is showing up late, they're not doing their job, they're not following the system, like that's it. But then there's still a problem with the system.
Yeah.
So in any business, you got to focus on the systems and the processes first. And then you can get back down to, okay, is this person actually following the process? Yeah. Because if it's a broken system, it doesn't matter who the person is. Yeah. It's never going to work. And same thing, even if it's just you. You can't be hard on yourself. Like, you're your own boss.
Yeah.
So here you are yelling at yourself, being really hard on the person, and you're not even looking at the process. So separate those two.
Yeah. No, actually, I'm reflecting right now. I'm like thinking about everything, and that's one of the things I'm doing with my company, with everybody that works with me, and we collaborate together. I have a different approach, and I really want to, as much as I push the whole, we care about your business, we care about growing with you and being of value, I also believe that I'm doing that with my team. Like everybody in my team, like I make sure that they're okay, and even though hey, we're the business is coming, it's a little slower, but like just ride with me, and we're gonna blow this up together, because it isn't just. I tell everybody in the team, like, hey, we're doing this together. Like if I start making money, it means that we're all fucking making money. Yeah. So like ultimately we're all winning. Like I want to create a win-win for everybody in the team. So I like it. So man, this is I don't even know where this is heading, but I love the
To the top.
Oh, I love that. So, all right, guys. So the idea of the show is anybody out there that owns a business, entrepreneur, and if you guys have anything that you guys are struggling with, mindset or anything in general, I want you guys to send me a DM or maybe comment down below, and here on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, or whatever. And at least for now, we're gonna do this at least once a month, and we're gonna ask some questions to Stephen, and he's been super successful, and actually he answered a lot of the questions. Like I'm walking away with a lot of knowledge, and thank you. I appreciate you. So remember, guys, to subscribe, send the questions, and thank you, Stephen, again.
My pleasure.
All right, appreciate you.